Everybody, so we got a cool episode for you today. It's Friday, about 2 p.m. Pacific time. Market's closed today. I was looking at after the market, and I want to go over with you an opportunity to make a lot of money. And I'm going to give you specific data that we're going to look at and why my confidence level is through the roof. And we're going to talk about emotion versus actual data. So overall, we look at the market today, and it was down 0.59, but realistically it was down. It went down. Let's get this. Get the 1 day. It went down, went up, went down, went up, and it ended up. So it was mostly down for the most part, but it recovered. You look at the NASDAQ, that got hammered today, and the S&P, which are the big stocks, kind of followed the Dow for the most part, the pattern, but a little bit of a muted response. As a whole, we saw some of our stocks go up and some of them go down. So it was kind of a mixed bag today. But one of the things that I looked at today is I was trying to look at things from a big picture and trying to figure out what's going on as a whole. So we have a couple things in the news that are, definitely affects things for sure. We have the lack of a stimulus plan, before the election. We have the election coming up Tuesday. And we have the Q3 results that came out. So first of all, Q3 results came out. We had a 33% increase in GDP. Now, granted, I'm not really sure whether that was, quarter over quarter, but either way, 33% in one quarter is a massive uptick. I mean, whatever the problem was in Q2, let's say it was Q3 over Q2. I mean, going up 33% is just awesome and quick. It's the epitome of what they call a V-shaped recovery. In fact, a very narrow, steep V-shaped recovery. But that really didn't get a whole lot of traction this week. I was actually kind of surprised a little bit about that. If we look at it yesterday, this was kind of yesterday when we had that announcement came down. So we look at it as a whole. I guess we'll take it as a week, and you look how it went down, and it kind of was a little bit of a bulkhead against the drop a little bit, and it kind of leveled things out. But overall, it's huge. But then we look at the emotion. They're not sure about the election. I'm getting the sense with all the polling and the media coming out. And again, I was an old media guy, and I understand most of the purpose of a media is to control public opinion. It's just a fact of the matter. If you're sitting here saying, well, Matt, you don't know what you're talking about. I kind of do, because I was in television, I was in advertising, I was in different media areas, and that's exactly why they do it. I didn't know that before I worked in that area. I had no clue. I thought it would be a cool area to work in. And then I actually discovered that, and it changed how I look at things forever. So we look at all the polls coming out. It has Biden, up in every poll. And then there's always the cold splash of water for people when they say, well, this is exactly what people said in 2016. And in fact, I was on a Zoom call with a few friends of mine, and one of my friends, Bill, was like, well, no, I think this is going to be very different. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, everything's the same. The polls are the same. They hate Trump the same. I mean, everything's the same. Trump has big rallies. The Democrat front runner isn't getting anybody. The Democrat front runner isn't going to the Midwest. I mean, everything's the same. And then we look at the Trafalgar Group, and there was one other poll that actually nailed last presidential election, and they're predicting Trump winning by a pretty decent amount. And so anyway, I think before the election, we see a bunch of people pricing in, a Biden victory, which is like more shutdowns. And that's what they're really concerned about. And I'm not saying that as a partisan. I'm saying that because when you look at the data, and we're going to look at the data a little bit, and all these coronavirus cases being coming up, the market went down because of that, and then Europe shut down. Well, they think that Europe, that it's going to come here. Well, Trump's not shutting everything down. So if the fear that the European shutdowns are going to come here and result in U.S. shutdowns is not because we have a Republican president, it's because they think Biden's going to be president and he's going to shut down. In fact, he's been very open about that, about the fact that he's going to want a mask mandate, and he's trying to couch his words and saying, well, we don't want to shut down the country, we want to shut down the virus. Well, I'm not really sure how you do that without saying that. And he's openly talked about it. The focus groups and people interviewed have all said they all believe that that's kind of where Biden's opinion lies, which it probably is. So with that being said, we have a lot of people, kind of betting on the negative. So we want to take a look and do some myth busting today. We want to figure out, okay, is that data valid? is there a massive uptick in cases? Is this massive second wave going to lead to lockdowns? Are things different than they were before? And we look at even the stock market, and they said it had the biggest drop since March, right? Which is saying a lot. So we want to see, is there validity in the data to back it up? Because if there is, we want to act on it and protect ourselves. But if there isn't, we want to take advantage of other people's fears. Again, they always say be greedy when people are fearful and be fearful when people are greedy. So let's take a look at the data. So initially, we're going to look at San Diego just because I love the way that their data is put in, and I think it's somewhat representative of the country. But then we're going to look at the national data as well, per the CDC. So in San Diego, basically the same thing. We have the total number of new cases dead flat. We don't see any uptick. Cases by day, it's basically dead flat. It used to be down. Now it's dead flat. So there's no increase in the amount of testing. So we basically went down the mountain, hit the bottom of the mountain, and now we're flat at the bottom of the mountain. I mean, the trend line is absolutely dead flat, right about right here. Daily testing is going up, but we're going to look at national testing as well. We look at average positive tests per 100, and we are literally, I think the all-time low was right here at 2.54, and that was just for a moment, but realistically it was about 2.91, and we've been sitting here under that for a good week and a half, 2 weeks. The lowest number of positive tests in this county for a while. I mean, that is definitely a trend we're looking at. Hospitalizations are staying down. We've been under 100 forever. We look at number of beds being used by COVID patients. And again, this is, if you're in there for a broken leg and you have COVID, then, you count as a COVID bed, but only 239 beds being used out of a bed capacity of 6,013. So, and then the amount of beds being used is 4,258. So the difference between these two numbers are people that are in there for, could be, I don't know, they could have a broken leg that's being fixed. They could have a car accident. They could be in there for an alcohol or drug overdose. Could be anything in there. But the ER has a huge capacity. They don't have an issue with capacity at all. They have a ton of capacity. So they have a difference of about 1,800 free beds at any given time. And they could always discharge some of these people if needed. So not all beds in the hospital do you have to have people in there. And if you've ever been in a hospital, you know that's the fact. Now we look at deaths, the key metric. Again, the trend line is about 2 deaths per day. And we look at the overall breakdown. These are the most recent deaths. And again, we look at 86, 74, 73, 82, 82, 72, 75, 74, 85, 78. The youngin, the little spring chicken at 59, 75, 84, 64, 58, 54. That's the real youngin. 60, 71, 55, 71. So this is the old age home, basically, that's getting massively hit. And guess what? Every single one of them had underlying medical conditions. So it's the same story as before. It's hitting old people. It's not hitting young people. It's hitting sick people. It's not hitting healthy people. So you're saying, well, is San Diego going to be similar to the nation? Well, it's a great question. So we'll look at today, and this is pretty cool dashboard we have by the CDC, and they're showing percent positive. So in San Diego, it's 2.8, 2.7. Basically, it was up high back in March, went down in June. The riots hit, went up, and then it's been down, down, down. It's gone up a little bit, and I think right now it's at, about 6 or 7% roughly, which is not bad. I mean, that's basically 1 out of every 16 people that think that they might have it. So if you have 16 people go, I think I might have coronavirus, 15 of them are wrong, which is an awesome, awesome number. Hospitalization rate, the highest it went there, dropped down in June, riots hit, went up, and then it's been down since. And even in the last probably a few days, it's just plummeted. Percent of deaths, again, really high early on. When we had the shutdowns, went to June, we reopened, we had the riots, it went up, and it's gone down. And guess what? In the last week, plummeted. I mean, Double Diamond, Ski Hill, plummeted. All right, so let's take a look at the individual data. We'll look at basically the last 30 days, daily new deaths. Actually, what we can do is we'll go last 90 days. All right, so total new tests. Let's go total new tests. All right, so tests have been going up. If we look at this past day, the most recent new test is, let's see, how many tests do they have? I'm not sure, but it went up. All right, so overall trend lines going up as far as testing more. So they've been doing 330 tests per 100,000. Total new cases. All right, that's gone up a little bit, and we've seen the positivity rate go up. But then we ask how many new deaths, and that's really the key metric. And look at it. It's gone down. I mean, it's been really shallow. The trend line, you can kind of see the trend line right here going that way. So overall, not bad at all. Not bad at all. So that's going down. We look at individual states. And I'm trying to see if there's any states that really jump out as far as having any issues. Texas had their little spike right here, and it's immediately gone away. Small states like Louisiana. Let's take a look at some bigger states if we can find those. Now they even have Puerto Rico in there. That's kind of crazy. But anyway, all the numbers are low. I mean, I'm having just a tough time. Look at New York. New York's having, new deaths 0.05 per 100,000. Let's take a look and see if we can find California on here. All right, California's got to be in here somewhere. All right, so let's do California. There we go. Oh, you know what we can do? We'll just do this. So California, we'll take a look at some states that we see here. Look at this. I mean, they have everybody on lockdown, and this is absolutely an absolute awesome trend on where things are going. Let's take a look at New York. All right, so New York's gone up a little bit, but that explains the media a little bit. But new deaths, 0.08 per 100,000. Again, these are gross numbers. Let's take a look at New Jersey. Again, with the exception of these spikes right here, generally it's been really, really low. And new deaths, 0.09 per 100,000. So that's always really good as well. Let's take a look at Florida. And again, Florida has no COVID restrictions at all. None. And they're plummeting. I mean, plummeting. Look at Miami-Dade County, 0.83 per 100,000 average. And they have a population in Miami-Dade County of about 3 million people. So a little bit smaller than San Diego overall, but then they have Broward County as well. So, between those two, it's a little bigger than San Diego. But anyway, so that's kind of what we're looking at. If we look at the last 14 days, let's take a look at the states as a whole. It's been relatively flat. I mean, if anything, there's exceptions on the downside versus the upside, but it's been relatively flat. If we look at total new cases, that's been up. So we have cases going up, but we don't have deaths going up, right? So that's really, really important. If you're saying, well, what about an incubation period? So last 30 days, deaths have been relatively flat, but with the exception being on the downside, not the upside. And then cases are going up. So we see maybe a lot of asymptomatic or very minor cases where somebody has the sniffles or a cough or something like that, but it's not really stressful. In essence, it's kind of like a flu, or not even as bad as pneumonia. I had pneumonia in January, so I can speak to that, but like the flu or a cold or a fever or something like that. So overall, we look at it and the data hasn't changed that much. If anything, some of the, we might have some cases going up, but we don't have any bad problems, which means we're treating the disease better. People are not dying. People are not being hospitalized, and things are going in the right direction. But what it looks like is we have a media-driven hysteria. So when we look at here and we look at overall for the last week and the market going down, that's not even the market. If we look at the market going down, let's say the Dow, for the last week, and we see these massive craters. In fact, we'll just go a month just so we can look farther out. We look at this. We know that it's a media-generated problem with the cases going up but no deaths. And then we look at the election coming up. And make no mistake, that's a big part of it. So I would make sure that you get your positions in before Tuesday so you have a greater sense where things are going. I still think the market's going to go up either way. I think there's a lot of people that are fearful, which means we need to be greedy. And to that effect, I went into mine and I have my Ikagi limit order coming in. It's currently at 253. I had it at 210. I moved it up to 245 because I want this order to go through. And then I added another order for PBF, which is our oil stock right here. The price of it, or the price I bought it for, is $638. It's down to $467. And I put it down to $450. If I can get it at $450, I'm getting a 6-to-1 ratio on an increase. And to free up some money, I put in a limit sell for AVCT, which is advanced. It's a cloud computing company. And I looked overall, and it was kind of flat. There was no major upside other than a time when they had their merger. So I thought, well, there's not really a whole lot of upside for it jumping up dramatically. So let's just free up some cash. So this one's going to execute over the weekend. So with that being said, probably Monday when this executes, I'll probably put in another order and probably throw another stock in here as well. So do what I'm doing. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of this massive dip. And, when people come to their senses after the election and that 33% GDP jump hits in, and remember, it's earnings season as well, you're going to see a lot of people take advantage of it. But outside of a couple stocks that are getting hit, our portfolio is doing great. We have, triple or 2.5 times, triple, and almost 3.5 times return. And overall, even in the dip, we're still at a 75% gain on what we put in. So, but we're going to be over 100 to 125 probably in the next 2 weeks. So with that being said, get your stuff in before the election, and we'll see you next week. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.